Say something in chapel, and I missed out with your levels last term. It was unfortunate, but I did. Because I actually had a topic that I wanted to focus on. The topic was hope. And it was in light of the riots that had taken place in London, and Tunisia, and Libya, and Syria, and other countries. And it got me thinking about why people do resort to such behaviours. And the London riots were very close to home because I've got two nieces who both live in the area where the riots took place. Clapham Junction is my hometown. Battersea is where I come from. And so when you see on the news your own space being violated and burnt to the ground, and you know you've got two nieces, one living in Northcote Road, one up the hill in Lavender Hill, and both of them have been affected by it, you think, what is going on here? So I thought, I'm going to talk about riots and why people do these kind of things. Anyway, Monday came along, and I knew Monday and Sunday, anyway in America, was September the 11th, and I wasn't going to watch anything about September the 11th. I didn't want to. I just turned every newspaper I saw, I just turned it away. I did not want to see a program. I saw the planes, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it until Sunday night I saw a program. And I cried. And on Monday, I spoke to the Year 12s about September the 11th, based on hope. So I thought I'd talk to you about hope on September the 11th and the Year 10s yesterday. Well, I didn't, because I walked into chapel on Wednesday. I walked into chapel and I saw this. And I thought, how do I link all the things I've found about hope? Because on Sunday night I was surrounded by papers and I printed off hope. Ovid, the classic writer, said, "My hopes are not always realised, but I always hope." Fyodor Dostoevsky said, "To live without hope is to cease to live." Someone called Orison Swett Marden wrote, "There is no medicine like hope, no incentive so great, no tonic so powerful as expectation of something tomorrow." John Lennon wrote, "Imagine all the people living in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope that someday you'll join us and the world will be as one." And a student in Year 11 some time ago sent me an email and said, "I like this. I know it's one of these sort of email things you get, but Mr. Scudamore, have a read of it." And I read this thing. It said, "The most destructive habit, worry. The greatest joy, giving. The greatest loss, a loss of self-respect. The most satisfying work, helping others. The ugliest personality trait, selfishness. The most endangered species, dedicated leaders. Our greatest natural resource, our youth. The greatest shot in the arm, encouragement. The greatest problem to overcome, fear. The most effective sleeping pill, peace of mind. The most crippling failure, disease, excuses. The most powerful force in life, love. The most dangerous act, a gossip. The world's most incredible computer, the brain. The worst thing to be without, hope." Mentioned it. Camille Knock and Ellie Carlos came to me a few months ago and said, "Mr. Scudamore, we want people to remember Japan." I said, "Why?" They said, "Because there's an earthquake and people have forgotten." "Well, what do you want to do? Raise money?" "No, we don't want any money. We want cranes to be made." I said, "Brilliant idea. Go and see Father Hugh." Father Hugh saw Mr. Robinson. Hence, we have this. Two people. They didn't want any money raised. They didn't want anything given. They simply said, maybe our thoughts and our prayers and us doing something like this will make a difference. So I went to the internet again, just to remind ourselves what happened on March the 11th, 2011. The National Police Agency has confirmed 15,787 deaths. 5,932 injured, 4,059 people missing across 18 districts. Of the 13,135 fatalities recovered by 11th of April 2011, 12,143 or 92.5% died of drowning. Victims aged 60 or older accounted for 65.2% of the deaths, with 24% of total victims being in their 70s. Save the Children reports that as many as 100,000 children were uprooted from their homes. some of whom were separated from their families because the earthquake occurred during the school day. As of the 10th of April 2011, Japan's Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare stated that it was aware of at least 82 children who had been orphaned by the disaster. The quake and tsunami, as of the 28th of April 2011, killed 378 elementary, middle school and high school students and left 158 others missing. One elementary school lost 74 of 108 students and 10 of 13 teachers and staff. I mean, I'm not going to bother with the buildings. The buildings are buildings, but just to remember this, I can read lists of things, but 45,700 buildings were destroyed, and 144,300 were damaged by the quake and tsunami. The earthquake and tsunami created an estimated 25 million tons of rubble and debris in Japan. And the footy finals were in the newspapers headlines. We've forgotten, maybe, somehow. Kentaro had no idea what was going on. Kentaro is obviously very close to this because it happened in his country. And Kentaro wrote to the Japanese students a newsletter which goes out. And a student picked up this newsletter and they sent it to me. And she said, "Mr. Schoonmore, read this." And I've asked Kentaro if I can read out what he wrote to his Japanese students. And he said yes. First, I would like to say a massive thank you to all students who made a crane this morning. Since this week, when I walked through school, I could see so many posters of Japanese flags. I'm so surprised and pleased when I heard what had happened this morning in your house. Doing origami, and even some students were watching footage from the 11th of March tsunami through YouTube. Made me realise that something was going on. I still remember how I felt when that terrible earthquake happened. It was just before my first exit in Term 1. When I heard the news, I just couldn't believe it and started to worry about my family and all my friends. Since that day, every time I look at Twitter or Facebook or look at the internet, everything just seemed like chaos. I found out that my family was safe. I knew that some of my friends, especially in Tokyo, could hardly go back to their houses even to get water and food, and others were asking whether their friends were safe or not. I just felt hopeless. Fortunately, even though my family, relatives and most of my friends didn't suffer, every time I knew some of my friends in Osaka, my hometown, were trying to help those who had suffered by earthquake in whatever way they felt they could. I just felt alone. I felt hopeless because of the distance, both physically and mentally. At that time, I just wanted to act, to do something to support my country, but I didn't know how to do it. As the time passed, I started to think in this way. I will do my best with the students who take Japanese at Geelong Grammar School. It's the only way I can do something as a Japanese assistant this year. This is the only thing I can do in this school for both this community and my own country. You can't imagine how you have been encouraged or how you have encouraged me. We can't exist without much thoughts, support and help from other countries. I would like to say thank you again to all students and teachers and staff in this school through this letter. I want to say thank you to each of you and the boarding houses and the day houses directly. If I knew beforehand that you were doing something like this, I would have said thank you before. Simple acts of kindness, collective thoughts, a prayer, a thought, a gesture. It maintains and sustains our humanity. It does give hope when all seems hopeless. Such gestures make us hopeful. We go back to the reading, and not only that, but we also boast in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. There's a book I read called The Freedom Paradox by a man called Clive Hamilton. He uses a word I've never come across before. There's phenomenon and there's noumenon. Noumenon means, really simply, that there is something in us, a spirit, which connects us to each other. I am connected to Kintaro. Kintaro is connected to us. We are connected in some way to the Japanese people. We are all connected by this spirit. I can't prove it. I can't find it. I can't tell you, here it is, let me show you my noumenon, my spirit. But it's there. I believe it's there. I genuinely believe that there is a really strong connection between everyone and everything and every living thing in this planet. We've lost the ability to understand it somehow. This helps us to find it. It connects. It's a very powerful thing. It gives us all a genuine sense of hope.